First at 9 this Sunday, the 1st of December 2024. Breaking barriers. Sri Lanka and India in discussion to implement the use of Sri Lankan rupees in India, says the central bank. Engine of development. Private sector recognized as the core of the country's development, says the president's senior economic advisor. Further asserts no hurry to restructure SOEs. Exciting disaffection. Mahavir commemorations held in the north. 4 arrested over spreading misinformation regarding the commemorations. So Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka welcomes over 150,000 tourists in November. Total arrivals surpass 1.7 million by the end of the penultimate month.
Chilo Dairy, Sri Lankawama Kiren Perata. Obe Vishwase dinu Sensodyne, then Langamati Pharmacy labagata hacker.
Kanta parisang karagattot api parisang.
Asian Paints Causeway Aquasave Vessat Mattuik Gedarat Disney.
From Derana, this is Derana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to Derana First at 9. I'm Aditya Singh joining you live with the latest in Sri Lanka and around the world. Now taking you straight to your top story this evening, the Central Bank Governor Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe claims that Sri Lanka does not need to rely on foreign exchange swaps at the moment since the country's official foreign reserves have grown, ensuring sufficient reserve liquidity. He made those remarks during the most recent monetary policy review briefing of 2024. Meanwhile, the Director of Payments and Settlements Department, KVK Alvis, mentions that Sri Lanka is currently in discussions with the Indian authorities to implement a system allowing Sri Lankans to pay in Sri Lankan rupees when visiting India. This initiative would mirror the UPI system available in Sri Lanka for Indian travellers.
Deflation drags on for another year or so. What will be the impact on corporate profitability and employment market?
Cost of production comes down means the profitability can increase.
We do not expect deflation to continue for such a long time to have an impact on production. So I think by the second quarter next year we will see the end of deflation.
Official reserves include the Chinese 1.5 billion swap.
1.4 billion.
1.4 billion. I think the conditions are three months of imports. Am I right?
There are certain conditions that those are not published. We have drawn down, but we have no intention to use it. I don't think there's any reason for us to use it now because we have sufficient resource liquidity available in our resource. So that those kind of resources are used as a last resort if there are no other foreign exchange resource available. There's no question of drawing down or utilizing that amount. Is as a buffer that we are keeping within our resource.
Is the UPI going to start for Sri Lankan?
UPI එකේ අනිත් පැත්ත තාම අපි ඉම්ප්ලිමන්ට් කරලා නැහැ. ඒක අපි දැන් තාම සාකච්ඡා වෙමින් පවතිනවා. ඒක සිදු කරන්නේ කොහොමද කියන එක.
පිරිපුන් ජීවිතයකට ඔබ සමගින් පෙරට Union Assurance.
Welcome to Cinnamon Life, South Asia's biggest entertainment hub, where awe awaits.
චන්දුරුසුමේ කාගෙන් මනාපේ සිංහ TV සඳහා සුපිරි ඩීල්.
Sadaharita Plantations Limited, celebrating 22 years of your trust.
Senior economic advisor to the President, Dumindu Hulangamu, claims that the new government is encouraging the private sector to be at the forefront of economic development in the country. However, he notes that the government will retain control over strategic sectors of public interest. Joining our current affairs program at Hyde Park with Indivari Amuatta, Hulangamu highlighted that the government is pursuing a liberal market strategy to encourage private sector investment. Commenting on the restructuring of state-owned enterprises, Hulangamu explains that the government is not rushing the process but is carefully analysing which SOEs are a burden to the Treasury.
Regarding the ideological shift also, we see that the President and the policy shift that the people expect, especially managing the economic situation. You've been a private sector member, stakeholder of the private sector. How are you bridging this gap?
The government has nowhere said that private sector is not encouraged. In fact, it has gone on record even before the elections and thereafter, private sector will center on development. So there is no reference to saying that the government will be larger and bigger than what it is now. The concept of small smaller garments, more efficient garment, and for the private sector to lead in more serious development is what the president has always been saying. However, there are certain areas like or our strategic interest in terms of the people's interest, like public utilities, like electricity, will be kept in garment, and but not the whole of it. More and more private sector will be invited and encouraged to join the power generation model. Other than those, I think there is no restriction in terms of private investment. There is no message even to that effect that there is a discouraging message to the private sector to say no investment will be permitted. So this is very liberal at the moment. There is no change to that, other than, as I told you, if there are market situations that warrant and demand that. So to that extent, the government will play a role.
Do you believe this sort of liberal handling of the market situation would continue with the present government?
I would think so.
You have been a major proponent of restructuring state-owned enterprises. However, this government's stance is quite different. What led to this?
The restructuring of state enterprises can take different forms. It does not necessarily mean a sellout. There can be a sellout in certain instances. Certain things can be a management change, or certain SOEs can be a partial sale, or combination of all these things can happen. So this government's position also, in my view, has not changed. The government is not in a hurry to take a decision on their future. Also, for example, certain institutions at the moment are not burdensome to the government. What we are looking at is there a burden on the treasury at the moment? Because even the IMF has very clearly said SOEs can't be a burden to the treasury. Treasury can't be financing it. So we need to make sure the SOEs that are suffering, why they're having losses. So if there's no capital, definitely government has to invite private capital, because the government has no money to put in. As the government is new, right? So you need to give some time and space to structure their policy on this. Sri Lankan Airlines also, we need to see how we are going to restructure Sri Lankan Airlines in terms of its balance sheet. So I think prior to any decision on change of management or change of ownership or partial change of ownership, so current discussions are going on in that. At the same time, we have to make sure that Sri Lanka has an airline. We have to consider all those things, but at the same time, we can't hold the entire country to ransom as a one airline. So we have to discuss all these things and come with a solution, which we'll do most likely in the coming months.
Fast track your career from O levels with eSoft.
Diabetesol සීනි වලින් පරිස්සම් වන ඔබට අමතක නොවන පෝෂණය.
Prime Group ලංකාවේ ප්‍රථම වතාවට හඳුන්වා දෙන land leasing ලේසියෙන් මීටමක්.
Single 1111 up to 60% off from the 11th November to the 17th of November.
Kalani wire කිසිගින්නක් නැහැ.
කිසිගින්නක් නැහැ. Kalani Fire Shield Wire.
With the reduction in torrential rains, the number of people affected by the inclement weather also dropped to 471,249 today. The Department of Meteorology forecasts that the incessant rains will subside as the cyclone Fengal entered northern Tamil Nadu yesterday. Meanwhile, the cyclonic storm Fengal, which entered India last night, prompting heavy downpours and severe flooding, has already claimed 3 lives so far. The cyclonic storm Fengal over the southwest Bay of Bengal entered India last night, prompting heavy downpours and severe flooding in many areas across Tamil Nadu. In light of the Fengal cyclone, Indian authorities took measures to temporarily shut down schools, universities and the Chennai airport yesterday. According to the Indian media, 3 people have already been killed as a result of the deadly cyclonic storm. Against this backdrop, the Department of Meteorology in Sri Lanka noted a decrease in rainfall received by the island during the past 24 hours as the cyclone Fengal entered northern Tamil Nadu yesterday. In its latest reports, the Disaster Management Centre highlighted that continuous rainfall has claimed 17 lives so far, with 19 people reportedly being injured, severely injured. The DMC also noted a reduction in the number of those affected in the 24 districts. Accordingly, 471,249 persons of 139,934 families remain affected by bad weather. The DMC further stated that no disasters were reported during the 12-hour period from 6 p.m. yesterday to 6 a.m. today. Similarly, the Department of Irrigation lifted the flood warnings issued to the Malvatoya River Basin this morning. The department also stated that the water level of the Mahaveli River has returned to normalcy following the reduction in continuous rainfall. The Mahaoya Bridge connecting the North Central Province and Eastern Provinces, which recently collapsed owing to extreme weather conditions, was reopened for traffic today. Farmlands were also massively affected by the incessant rains, which prompted heavy flooding. As a result, paddy fields in several areas in the Anuradhapura and Polonnaru districts continue to remain inundated. Similar conditions were observed in Kalpitiya of the Puttalam district. Minister of Public Administration, Provincial Councils and Local Government, Professor Chandana Beratna visited the area yesterday to inquire into the effects of adverse weather on the residents of the area. Meanwhile, Deputy Minister of Housing T.B. Sarath also commented on the destruction of crops due to extreme weather patterns.
අක්කර 15000කට වඩා වැඩි ප්‍රමාණයක් හානියට පත් වෙලා ඇතයි කියලා විශ්වාස කරනවා. වතුර සම්පූර්ණ බහැලා ගියාට පස්සේ හානිය හරියටම තක්සේරු කරලා වන්දි මුදල් ලබා දීමට අපි කටයුතු කරනවා.
In the aftermath of the recent uptick in torrential rains, the air quality in major cities of the country drastically depleted. According to the National Building Research Organization, this is mainly due to the winds flowing from India towards Sri Lanka, carrying with them a considerable amount of air pollutants from India and other suburban regions in the South Asian region. As per the data of the internationally recognized website iqair.com, the air quality index value of 3 major cities of the island exceeded the 151 AQI level by 3 p.m. today. According to the NBRO's Air Quality Studies Division, levels of AQI ranging between 151 to 200 are considered unhealthy. Taking the current situation into account, the NBRO says that the depletion in air quality poses a threat to those suffering respiratory difficulties and requests that such parties seek medical advice in case of emergency. Now, although the uptick in torrential rains that pelted down on Sri Lanka seem to be subsiding, Derana, in partnership with Dialogue, continued its efforts undeterred to provide relief to those Sri Lankans reeling in the aftermath of the adverse weather. The Derana Dialogue Disaster Relief Program was conducted today in Mullaitivu and Batticaloa. With the support of the Sri Lankan Army, Derana handed over the first delivery of dry rations to the fishermen's village in Kokilai, Mullaitivu. The 59th Division of the Sri Lanka Army, commanded by Major General Nalin Hettiarachchi, also assisted the relief drive. Afterwards, Derana provided dry rations to the displaced people of Wilamthotta Batticaloa, along with the assistance of Colonel Pradeep Kalupahana, commander of the 243rd Infantry Brigade, and Major Andra Balagalla, commander of the 11th Sri Lanka Singha Regiment. Derana seeks to further build on its past relief efforts and provide relief to those affected by the inclement weather across the country in partnership with Dialogue. During the inauguration of the new Amari Colombo Hotel, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Foreign Employment and Tourism Vijit Herath emphasized the importance of private sector collaboration within the government's framework, stating that such partnerships are essential for advancing the country's position on the global stage. Former President Ranil Wickremesinghe, who attended the event, expressed his appreciation to President Anukumara Dissanayake and the government for their decision to work along with the International Monetary Fund's framework. The newest chapter of the Amari hotel chain, Amari Colombo, is the first 5-star international hotel in Colombo, owned by a sole Sri Lankan entrepreneur. The inauguration ceremony was held yesterday. Minister of Foreign Affairs, Foreign Employment and Tourism Vijit Herath, former President Ranil Wickremesinghe and opposition leader Sajith Premadasa were among the invitees of the ceremony.
Welcome.
As citizens, when we try to take this country to the world, the tourism industry becomes a crucial factor. The introduction of this hotel will play a pivotal role in advancing the country on the global stage, building stronger connections with the world economy, and will help us tackle the country's economic downturn. May the inauguration of the new Amari Hotel be a better opportunity for the private sector to join together with the government's policy framework.
To develop this country's tourism industry, there is a significant number of hotels across the nation that need support. To fulfill these requirements, the utmost support for the tourism industry must be provided through state intervention as well as through all of our efforts. While providing that strength and promoting national and international investments, we must move forward. To reinforce the country's hotel industry, there are currently 9 modern international level hotel schools established across the 9 provinces. I must say that we have worked to create a skilled and competent workforce for this industry.
කුසලතාවයේ තිබෙන ශ්‍රම පරපුර ගොඩනගන්නට අපි කටයුතු කරව තිබෙනවා.
මේ රටේ ආර්ථිකය කඩාවැටෙන අවස්ථාවේදී ආර්ථිකය ගොඩ ගන්න නම්
When the country's economy collapsed, we had to operationalize the country's full capacity to revive it. We expected the growth rate to spike up to 3% and now it has exceeded our expectations and reached around 4 to 5%. Therefore, I would like to express my appreciation for President Anura Dissanayake, who also serves as the finance minister, and the government for agreeing to abide by the International Monetary Fund's framework. We cannot violate that agreement. However, we will have to look at new avenues for development when we reach our full potential. The tourism industry can be considered as one such avenue. The industry must also bring in novel ideas where we can earn at least $300 per tourist.
අපි බලන්න ඕන සංචාරකයන් ඩොලර් 300ක් ලබා ගන්න දිනයකට.
And now let's take a look at some of the latest developments in the political arena off the back of the recent fuel price revision. They say the prices increased, but the increase is not that significant. The budget to be presented in January will be the tool to balance income and expenditure. We can only make decisions on price controls and tax reductions when the budget is presented.
In the past, there were allegations that fuel was being stolen and that ministers were taking commissions. However, those claims were false and the newly appointed chairman has confirmed it. To reduce fuel prices, the international crude oil prices must decrease.
We are committed to stopping corruption and fraud in the country. We must build a nation where the future generations will not suffer. We will definitely work towards rebuilding this nation.
During our time in the government, we informed the public about realities of fuel price controls. However, the NPP, which was in the opposition at the time, told the public that the minister was pocketing 160 rupees per litre and promised that once in power, they would pass on that benefit to the public. Now they have deceived the public by increasing the price of kerosene by 5 rupees.
Do not expect everything at once. We ask for patience. Ours is a new government. It has only been in power for 3 months. It will take some time, but we will definitely develop this country.
Analyzing the results of this election, it is clear that Sarvajana Balaya has made the most drastic advancement in proportionate terms. The SLPP, despite utilizing all their strength, had the weakest stride forward in proportionate terms. The SLPP was formed because Basil Rajpaksha needed a political platform to mobilize voter support, but it lacked a clear vision. With the departure of the American citizen, the SLPP's machinery lost its effectiveness. If any political party aligns with both scientific and traditional values, that is the Sarvajana Balaya. The UNP has become the gas cylinder, and off the back several attempts, they have managed to send Ravi Karunanayake to parliament. The SLPP has fragmented into multiple fractions. The JVP has been effectively neutralized by this power. President Anura Dissanayake is fulfilling the vision of former President Ranil Wickremesinghe. The NPP, once a disciplined political movement, has now been corrupted by the same elite politics they once criticized.
දේශපාලන ව්‍යාපාරයේ ජීවය දූෂණයට ලක් වෙලා තියෙනවා. ඔවුන්ම සඳහන් කරපු වලව් දේශපාලනයේ හරහා.
Now, as news of the Mahavir celebrations in the north grabbed national headlines, 4 individuals have been apprehended by the CIT today on charges ranging between exciting or attempting to excite disaffection and spreading false and misleading videos publicizing the activities of a proscribed organization, particularly the LTTE. According to the police, 3 of the suspects have already been remanded, while the other suspect is expected to be produced before the Jaffna Magistrates Court. Tamil communities in several areas of the northern province held ceremonies during the past few days to commemorate the deceased members of the LTTE and other Tamil citizens who lost their lives during the civil war. Former MP M.K. Sivajalingam was seen engaging in such commemorations. Against this backdrop, the Criminal Investigation Department, together with the Jaffna unit of the Terrorism Investigation Division, arrested 4 individuals for disturbing public peace by publicizing the LTTE Mahavir commemorations. According to the police, the suspects, aged between 28 to 50, are identified as residents of Maradana, Baddegama, Borlasgamu and Chunnakam respectively. The investigations revealed that the suspects have circulated photos and videos of LTTE leader Velupille Prabhakaran on several social media platforms, along with old footage from previous LTTE Mahavir commemorations, which they falsely alleged were this year's commemorations. Accordingly, the suspects were arrested on charges ranging between exciting or attempting to excite disaffection and spreading false and misleading videos publicizing the activities of a proscribed organization. One of the suspects arrested in Boralasgamo this morning will be held in remand custody till the 4th of December this year. The relevant order was issued after the suspect was produced before the Colombo Magistrates Court. Another suspect apprehended in Maradana was ordered to be remanded until tomorrow, while the other suspect arrested in Baddegama will be held in remand custody until the 3rd of December, pursuant to the order issued by the Baddegama District Magistrates Court. In the meantime, the suspect arrested in Jaffna is expected to be produced before the Jaffna Magistrates Court.
We never allowed Mahavir commemoration in the northern and eastern provinces of the country. There is a law applicable in that regard. The government's stance was to allow the people to commemorate and remember their deceased loved ones who died during the civil war. The glorification of the proscribed LTTE will never be allowed through the Mahaviru commemoration. The arrests were made following the investigations launched by the CID in this regard. The suspects can be punished under the section 120 of the Penal Code and under the provisions of the Computer Crimes Act. We request the public not to provoke the public and promote activities of a banned organization on social media.
කුපිතවන ආකාරයේ මෙවැනි ප්‍රචාර සමාජ මාධ්‍ය හරහා කිරීමට පෙළඹෙන්නට එපා.
And now, here's some local news around the island in brief. The Spellmaster 2024 competition, organised by the Junior English Society of St. Anthony's College, Kandy, in collaboration with the Global Antonians Alumni Association, was held recently at the college's new auditorium. A significant number of junior students representing around 25 schools in Kandy participated in this competition. The overall championship was claimed by Trinity College, Kandy, while Hillwood College, Kandy secured silver.
අද ඇත්තටම විශේෂ දවසක් ප්‍රථම වතාවට පළමු වතාවට මහනුවර දිස්ත්‍රික්කයේ ප්‍රධාන පාසල් කේන්ද්‍රය කරගෙන අපි ස්පෙල් මාස්ටර් කම්පිටිෂන් එකක් ප්‍රාථමික දරුවන් උදෙසා ආරම්භ කරන්න දියත් කරන්න සැලසුම් කරලා තියෙන්නේ. ප්‍රධාන පෙළේ මේ රජයේ පාසල් සහ ජාත්‍යන්තර පාසල් ඇතුළත්ව පාසල් 25ක් මේ සඳහා සූදානම් වෙලා සහභාගී වෙනවා.
We are here to represent the entire campus chain in Sri Lanka. Our main purpose behind being a partner of this particular event and helping these students to make sure that our students, our younger generation get the motivation and the uplift in order to improve their language skills and their interpersonal skills and make sure that they are prepared to be an international icon one day.
Meanwhile, the Laggala police arrested 10 suspects who were connected to a robbery of 70 million rupees worth of cash, gems and jewellery. The valuables were stolen off a gem merchant in the Devaladeniya region of Laggala, Matale. The robbery was carried out by the group on the 10th of November with the assistance of a monk from the Makulava area in Mavadagama, who is reported to have been involved in the planning of the heist. In other local news, wild elephant attacks were reported in the Valikanda area of Polonnaruwa and in the Galnava area of Anuradhapura. Both attacks resulted in property and crop damage, with no human casualties being reported. Welcome back. Now on your business news, Sri Lanka's deficit in the merchandise trade account has narrowed to $544 million in October from $683 million recorded a year earlier. Releasing the external sector report for the month of October, the Central Bank of Sri Lanka states that the cumulative deficit in the trade account during January to October has widened to $4.7 billion from $4 billion recorded over the same period in 2023. The data issued by the central bank claims that year-on-year earnings from merchandise exports increased by 24.8% to $1.15 billion in October from a year earlier. This growth was primarily driven by industrial and agricultural exports. The cost of merchandise imports increased by 5.7% to $1.7 billion in October 2024 from a year earlier. This increase was driven by higher spending on investment and consumer goods, while imports from intermediate goods declined. Foreign investments in the government securities market recorded a net outflow of $39 million in October 2024, resulting in a cumulative net outflow of $218 million during the period from January to October 2024. The data showed that the gross official reserves increased to $6.5 billion by the end of October this year, which includes a swap facility from the People's Bank of China and purchases of foreign exchange from the domestic foreign exchange market by the central bank for $190 million during the month. Meanwhile, according to the Sri Lanka Tourism Development Authority, 1,776,889 tourist arrivals were recorded this year, bringing the count closer to the target of 2.3 million tourist arrivals set for 2024. The latest SLTDA report records 156,174 tourist arrivals in the country between the 1st and the 26th of November. During the first week of this month, from the 1st to the 7th of November, 42,148 tourist arrivals were recorded as the highest number of arrivals within the month of November. The highest number of tourists arrived from India, with a total of 34,306 Indian tourists visiting the island. The Russian Federation held its previous spot as the country with the second highest number of tourist arrivals, with a total of 25,573 arrivals. The report also highlighted significant number of tourist arrivals from the United Kingdom, Germany and Australia. And now some corporate news in brief. Fitch Ratings has affirmed Sri Lanka-based Lion Brewery Ceylon PLC's national long-term rating at AAA with a stable outlook. The affirmation and stable outlook reflect that Lion's credit metrics will remain consumerate, with its rating over the medium term as Sri Lanka's economic environment continues to stabilize. Fitch stated that Lion's rating reflects its marketing leadership in the domestic beer industry, protected by high entry barriers stemming from licensing requirements and a ban on media advertising, strong brand presence and an extensive retail and distribution network. Meanwhile, announcing its financial results for the 9 months period ending September 30th this year, People's Bank reported a total consolidated operating income of 75.4 billion rupees and post-tax profit of 6.4 billion rupees. Consolidated net interest income rose to 60.4 billion rupees during the 9 months from the corresponding period last year. The bank's total Tier 1 and total capital adequacy ratios were 11.1% and 16.9% respectively as at September 30th, 2024, while on a consolidated basis, it was 12.6% and 17.7% respectively. In other corporate news, BLS International, a global tech-enabled service partner for governments and citizens, announced the commencement of Spain visa operations in Sri Lanka. The newly inaugurated Spain Visa Application Centre in Colombo will cater to the rising demand for Spain visa applications, accommodating a diverse range of travellers' needs. This centre will not only serve applicants from Colombo but also expand its reach to Maldives, boosting BLS International's presence and impact in Sri Lanka. And with that, we wrap up tonight's edition of Ada Derana First at 9. Stay in touch with us on www.adaderana.lk for the latest developments around the clock. Thank you. Have a great night.
For news and information you can trust 24 hours a day, visit adaderana.lk.